Well, I think one of the most profound things that we learned in the last administration was that perhaps the presidency is too powerful in office right now. You know, what with the suspension of habeas corpus, with the non-congressional approved incursion into Iraq, with undocumented detainees, with unprecedented number of signing statements, the presidency itself has pretty much gone wild. Would you, as a candidate, welcome any specific congressional impingements on the scope of presidential authority? I recently returned from a week of an incredible week in Baghdad, Iraq. I'm a trumpet player, and I was playing in a group for our troops and for Iraqi embassy staff. And one thing that I gleaned from speaking with local Iraqi shopkeepers and local Iraqis who spoke English well and who were informed about national events was that they have a completely different way of thinking. Insha Allah, God willing, there's a much greater belief in predestiny than we have in the West. And I don't believe that our think tanks were even aware of this kind of major philosophical shift. One Sunni shopkeeper I talked to said, we're going to have this war. In a year, in 100 years, we will have this war. And why didn't the people who were supposed to know this know this? This guy was a Sunni, and he was in a minority in Baghdad. He says, your president has just sent 20,000 troops into Baghdad. That's just going to prolong the war. There's a mindset in the East that is not going to be affected by the introduction of things like consequence. It really is an 8,000-year-old struggle. Why couldn't our think tanks have gotten a better feel for that? I feel like the people who designed this policy, and the Democrats are responsible. They were in the huddle too. It wasn't just a completely Bush-driven thing. The Democrats had to allow this to happen. So why was our ethnocentricity so extreme that we couldn't figure out the basic philosophical difference between East and West when hammering out Iraq policy? I guess that's a pretty scatterbrained question and a general question, but hopefully I made myself clear. The last thing I said to this Sunni shopkeeper was, aren't you afraid of being killed in genocide, in a Shia genocide over Sunni? And he says, Insha Allah, if God wills it. He is dedicated to his sect, to his people, to his family, but if he is somehow brought under, he has to believe that it is God's will and that there's a greater plan that he just doesn't understand. And that's a typical Eastern way of thinking. And it became very clear to me just over a week of being there. So why can't professionals who are supposed to understand this thing make a good decision based on good information? I guess, again, back to that same question.